I grew up in Akron, Ohio, and I heard this story back in the mid 1980s, somewhere around in there. There was this girl named Renee Lawson. So I was in school around about this time, and Renee had just graduated high school, maybe a year or so before. And we all heard that Renee was doing well. She had moved up to Cleveland since she graduated, and she had a good job, and she was dating this guy named Marcus. And they had a great relationship, and they had gotten pretty serious. And so now Renee and Marcus were talking about moving in together. All of Renee's family liked Marcus, so no big deal. This is great for all of them. They knew they would be staying together. But the issue was Renee's father, Leroy. So Leroy had a reputation. His reputation was that he was stubborn, and I'm not talking about regular stubborn. He was really stubborn. He was dead set on everything. He was one of these people that, he could never admit he was wrong, and he had 3 ex-wives to prove that. So when Renee went to his house, she was gonna break the news to him, I guess, something like that her and Marcus would be moving in together. Leroy flipped out, right? He flipped out. So he told her he wasn't going for it. So she tried to tell him, it ain't 1952 no more, daddy. And people don't stick to these old rules about marriage and all these type of things. Remember, this is late. This is around in the 80s, but still, people had started moving past some of that stuff. So she said, and I'm grown and I'm kind of taking care of myself now. Leroy's response was, so what? Everything you do reflect on me too. So Renee, she kind of stood up to him and she said, we're moving in together anyway. Me and Marcus were still moving ahead with our plans. So he told her to get out, Renee, get out, and don't come back until you learn how to respect my rules. So Renee left. Over the next couple of weeks, Leroy went on everything was cool. He still went to the diner every morning with his friends. They were arguing over politics and stuff that really don't matter, in the big scheme of things. But at night, his house started to feel different. So Leroy was one of these people, he liked to sit on his porch and drink coffee and smoke a cigarette. He's old school before he went to bed, chill out. So he was on his porch the first time he heard it. It was coming from somewhere off in the bushes. So he walked over to the edge of his porch and he looked out towards the woods. And for a second, he thought he saw movement, off in the tree somewhere. And it's something shifting low to the ground, and then it disappeared off into the dark. That's when he decided to go in the house and go to bed. It's time to go to bed. But the next night, he heard it again. But it was closer this time. Not just snorting, though. It was heavy breathing. Coming from somewhere beside the house. So he ran to get his flashlight. Went through the drawers or whatever, grabbed his flashlight so he could see, see what he could find around the house. He noticed mud on the side of the house and hoof prints, fresh ones. So he told himself somebody out here playing games or something, because why are hoof prints outside on my sidewalk on the side of my house or whatever? Next day, he go around knocking on people's doors, asking the neighbors if somebody brought a pig. Now, they treated him like he had lost his mind. So his one neighbor asked him why his eyes looked swollen and red like that. Asked him if he was sick. She told him, hey, go home, get some sleep. But he snapped at her, because this is Leroy. He snapped at her real crazy and look, she said, listen, I'm just trying to help. She slammed the door in his face. Weeks passed. Then one night, Leroy is laid out in his living room in his recliner. And then he started hearing this slow knocking coming from under the house. He sat straight up and he's listening. He's like listening. And the house is like creaking around and sweat is starting to pour off his face. Then he heard something brush up against the screen porch outside. So he's like wondering what the heck is going on. Leroy ran for his shotgun. And for the first time in his life, y'all, Leroy had to admit he was scared. And for a minute, just a minute, he thought about calling his daughter Renee. He thought about apologizing to her. He thought about all the years that he spent trying to control her and other people. And instead of just letting her and these other people, wives, live their own lives, live how they wanted to live, maybe he should have just left them alone. At least one of them would be here with him like right now. But pride. He couldn't do it. So instead, he marched out that front door. So he wasn't out there a minute. Loud breathing, getting closer and closer. Low, wet, nasty. And underneath, the breathing was sounding like his own breathing. So he yelled out in the dark, "I ain't scared of nothing." And you know what? It stopped. The whole front yard went quiet. Then hooves came running across his doggone porch. Y'all, Leroy dropped that shotgun and took off back into the house like the devil was chasing him or something. So the next week, nobody could find Leroy. Nobody. The neighbors got worried, and after they hadn't seen him for several days, his friends hadn't seen him, neighbors, nobody, they decided, and especially since he had been acting crazy or whatever, they decided, hey, let's call his daughter Renee. And that evening, Renee actually came, give her credit. She came. She pulled up into the yard. It was like just before dark, something like that. Her father's porch light was like still on. She knocked. Daddy? Nothing. She reached in her purse, reached around, found her old keys in her purse, used it to unlock the door, and she went in. The first thing that hit her when she went into the house was the smell. Damp, rotten. It was like wet, warm garbage. Daddy! Then, somewhere deep down in the hallway, she could hear something breathing. It didn't sound human. Renee froze. And somewhere from off in the back, low, like words trying to push through a throat that had been like closed off, she heard. All of a sudden, this big, nasty looking man pig came at her. Now, some people say Renee ran. And some people say she fell to her knees and cried. And I don't know what to believe, and I don't know what I would have did if this was like my father. Either way, they boarded up that house. And everybody in that neighborhood still leaves them porch lights on well into the night, just in case Renee's pig-headed daddy decides to come back around. Well, until next time, stay flexible and try not to become the pig head in somebody else's tail. Suddenly, I got a taste for some hickory smoked pork ribs. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Drive through the city on this road. She's been